Hi, everyone. We are coming to you from a Zoom recording, and we wanted to make these videos because the four of us have been meeting every week throughout the semester just to debrief the week and to work on some projects together and to just be with one another in the highs and the lows of what is first year of seminary. So we wanted to share with you a little bit of our reflections and share, what's been going on with the four of us more widely. So just to introduce ourselves, I'm Christina. I use she, her pronouns. I live in Dubuque in the lovely Wartburg Castle. Charlotte, why don't you introduce yourself?
Awesome. I'm Charlotte Trent. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm currently in St. Louis, Missouri, where I've done my first year of seminary at Wartburg, like Christina has, but in Dubuque. And Emily, why don't you go?
Sure, thanks, Charlotte. I'm Emily. I use she, her pronouns. I am currently in St. Paul, Minnesota, and I'm also a first-year student at Wartburg. Brittany, last but not least.
Yeah, I'm Brittany Barkas, and I'm a first-year student at Wartburg as well. I live in Apple Valley, Minnesota, just outside of I use she, her pronouns.
Here's the first question. Well, okay, I'll start. I was thinking about this and I feel like I have had so many different things emerge as like potential passions. And I still am figuring out like where I want to go. And maybe this is like seeping into some of the stuff we're going to talk about later, but like in undergrad, I was super into like theology and psychology and like faith and the like I don't know. And then now it's like, okay, now what? But one thing I think that I'm gonna like stick with, or it's like not something that's gonna go away, is making the church more accessible and more inclusive. I think this is something that before my first year, it would have been like something that I would have named as important, but it wasn't a passion. And so now like having like visible signs of being inclusive of LGBTQIA plus siblings and people of color and having wheelchair accessible buildings and stuff like that that's something that's really emerged for me, and also something of we have to go beyond like putting something on our website saying that we're welcome to all, and actually being a community that's welcoming. So now I should invite someone. Emily, you look like you're ready. I'd like to invite you.
Sure, thanks, Christina. Actually, that builds up into what I was going to say quite well. I think for me, I think similar to what you said, still figuring out kind of like what shape things are taking, but knowing that there's movement towards something. And I think for me, I've just been cemented even further in the importance of connecting our faith to how we're living. And you named some of those things, like how are we being a welcoming community rather than, I don't want to say simply saying we're a welcoming community, because I think that's a step on that journey. But knowing that, I think for me, my future ministry is very, very, I hope to continue to be heavily involved and heavily rooted in the community that it's in or involved with, or whatever that kind of takes shape. And so I think the passion that I've discovered is simply like continuing digging into accompaniment and what that looks like. And I think that's contextual. So I don't know that I can specifically name like a passion that fits into that. But for example, like my fieldwork with Amparo this year, that has been a way that has taken shape for me in this past year. So looking forward to seeing how that continues to grow. Brittany, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. And I feel like I'm kind of building on what both of you said. But I think I've realized and hoped that as I move forward in ministry, I can kind of bridge the gap between what we do in church and what we do in the world. Because I feel like people often see the church as four walls, and like the liturgy that we do is liturgy that we have done for years. And I mean, one thing that stood out to me from what I learned this year was just, liturgy is a living and breathing thing. Like, it can change over time. That's how we articulate our faith. And I think it's very possible to have that carry over into what is going on in the world today. And it's the church's responsibility to do that. And I think I'm just, a lot of it's contextual. But I think it's just something that the church can't ignore anymore. And we can't just be siloed into, we come on Sunday to worship and that's it. It has to be more than that. And Charlotte, I will invite you.
I'll end this out. I originally, when I was thinking about this question, I was like really struggling to answer. I feel like I don't know if there's a passion that's really emerged for me this year. I feel like this year was a really hard year, honestly, in a lot of ways. And I feel like it wasn't always a nurturing place for passions, right? And but in hearing you guys speak, and like we've been talking this semester about a lot of these things, right? And like this vision for the church and what it could be in the world, as a more equitable place for all people. Like that's something like I am like really stoked about in the work that I want to do, and I'm really thankful that I have people like you to kind of dream in that direction. And as far as like my call, I think what I've struggled with this year is I'm not sure, like I want to be doing that work, but I'm not sure what my role will look like in that work, especially as a white woman. But also as a queer woman, right? Like I think there's I definitely have I don't know, gifts for a vision for the church that I'm excited to work towards, but I'm not sure what that looks like yet. And so this year has been really wrestling with that and struggling with what is my passion, what is this direction, and who am I called to be in this church and in this world. So that's my authentic reflecting on seminary answer to that question.